Yeah, I think it's been a really good growing experience for me. And I think, I've learned a lot about like how to minister to men. It's been really beautiful to kind of like uncover this desire that I have to be a daughter and like to be a daughter on the streets and to see like, to see like various friends kind of step into that role of father in like very small ways. But it's been like very beautiful to give men who perhaps like already have like broken relationships with their family to give them an opportunity to be a father to me and for me to be a daughter to them. Has been like very beautiful.
People of Christ in the City, people everywhere around the world, this is David Christopher Pacheco.
Hi, my name is Kimmy.
My name is Arthur Ortiz. Been in Denver since 1973.
Okay, so let's just talk in circles for a little bit.
Just talk in circles, just shoot the breeze a little.
You know, they see beyond what I look like. They see what my actions are and say, hey, that is a good person.
A lot of people say home is where the heart is, but my heart's in many places. It's just I don't know where home is.
Welcome back to Homeless But Human. Here with you today is Blake.
And here with you today is Shayla.
There she is. And we have two guests with us today. And it is a fun missionary episode. So with us, we have Sebastian and Lydia. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today.
So you guys are representing our Park Street route, which I got to just say, before we start this, up with Parks.
Arriba Parques.
So we have our missionaries regularly going to the streets on what we call street routes. So this is one of our Denver routes. And each route, as we talk about, has its own different flavor and flair. And I like to think that the missionaries actually do make up the different feel on the routes, very much so.
Totally. They bring the flavor. You
they
guys
bring the
life.
flavor. And, Sebastian and Lydia have a lot of flavor to them. I think that's a good way of saying it. So, too accurate, I think. So, if you guys wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit who you are and how you ended up at Christ in the City.
Okay, yeah. So I come from San Diego. And I went to Benedictine College in Kansas. Go Ravens.
Go Ravens.
All right.
And I heard about Christ in the City through students that had gone on the mission trip here. And I was really desiring to do something with my summer. I really wanted to serve in some way after my sophomore year. And so I ended up interviewing for Denver Summer of Service. And I interviewed and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like everything that I want. I desired to serve the poor. I desired to live in community and live a life of prayer. And I found Christ in the City as a homeless outreach program that I had never seen before. I grew up with homelessness kind of everywhere in San Diego, but I had never seen someone approach this issue of homelessness from a perspective of relationship.
Yeah.
I was very intrigued by that. And so I came for the summer. I loved it. Basically, the Lord transformed my life in many ways. I came back for a second summer.
Yes.
I came back for a mission trip. I came back for a year.
Let's go.
And hopefully I'm going to come back for a second year.
Oh,
All right.
I love it.
That might be our longest term missionary. 2 summers.
Yeah.
2 years.
I'm working
Yes.
on a
Mission
mission trip.
Yeah, she's working the system. We're trying for the record, but we'll see.
Maybe you.
Maybe me, but no, I love it. It's and like you said, it's one where it's like it just kept drawing you back, right? The mission, the community, this reality. It didn't matter what summer, what group of missionaries, but just continuing to come back. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. Sebas, how about you?
Well, I'm from Peru, very far from Denver.
Yeah, that is pretty far.
For the ones who don't know, that's in South America.
No, very helpful. Very helpful.
Very helpful. So I'm part of the Christian Life Movement, or the CLM, how we call it. The religious community who's in charge of the CLM, they are also in charge of Christ in the City. So they invited my best friend to come here to Denver to learn about nonprofit organizations. Mm-hmm. And I already knew a little bit of Christ in the City. And when I learned that he was coming here, I told him, I'm sorry, but I'm going with you. I don't care if I'm not invited.
Really? That's how that happened? No. I remember the trip.
You said, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
I was not invited to that trip.
Oh my gosh, that's a great...
They were all studying business and stuff like that. But I really wanted to come to Christ in the City.
Yeah.
So I insisted so much. But
wow.
anyways, I ended up here.
I did not know that.
Wow.
I ended up here for a month
And that was 8 years ago.
That was
7. Yeah.
March.
7 years ago.
Yep, 7 years ago. So I was actually a missionary during that time.
When Sebas came.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I invaded his
Sebas.
room.
You did. I think he stayed in my room. So we had 6 people in there. So it was pretty jam packed. But
Cozy.
Well,
Yeah.
and I really loved it. I didn't understand it fully at the time, and it took me several years to realize that, this was what the Lord was calling me for, and He wanted to transform my heart here in Christ in the City. I kept running away, and things happened, college, COVID, and then I received this like very strong calling through prayer, during adoration. And I realized, okay, the Lord's calling me to come to Christ in the City.
Wow.
And I came.
and you've been miserable ever since, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
In the best year of my life.
Oh, it's so good.
And I want to come back for a second year.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was so fun welcoming. There's 4 of you on that trip, right, from Peru, and we had just moved into the current Christ in the City house in Denver, like a month before they showed up. So it was a wild time here.
yeah.
It was crazy. I love it. It's so nice. I think that's one of the beauties of this program is the amount of visitors we have, the amount of people that you, the missionaries, welcome in every single year. I mean, we have another mission trip that just showed up from Wyoming Catholic College in Lander, Wyoming, and just nonstop visitors throughout the year. And we just never know how it's going to impact someone, right? I mean,
Truly.
seeds planted years later, Sebastian comes and, he was running for a while, not listening to the word of God. Pretty standard stuff for Sebastian. But,
That is
anyway.
true. That is true.
yeah, no, it's pretty.
We're honest here. In Hopeless But Human.
Yeah, Almost But Human is an honest podcast. So
Well, can we get your honest opinion and information about what is your street route actually like? I want to hear more. Can you kind of like give us a taste of what is the Parks street route like?
Parks is a cultural experience.
All right, say more.
Is a way that someone has described it who came on the streets with us. It's this interesting mix between people who live in this neighborhood and have lived in this neighborhood. It's called 5 Points.
Okay.
People who like grew up in this neighborhood in Denver, and a lot of them like do live in apartments. Yeah, predominantly African American community that is from the neighborhood. And then we also have a large amount of Latinos who are in the area waiting for work, waiting for day labor. So it really is a cultural experience, very different
than a lot of the other routes in Denver.
Yeah.
Right? Like 16th Street Mall, typical high energy, lots of people, business, non-business, tourists. Some of our other routes, Crossroads, which is more the tents that you'd envision, and, the resources area. And then you have parks, unlike any other route.
Yeah, it's a very, very consistent route.
Yeah.
We see our friends every day. We know that we're going to see the same people because they are from that area.
Yeah.
That's where they hang out. That's the way they build community. Even if some of our friends, most of our friends are homeless. It's a very calm route.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful because you walk around the parks, and I love that too.
Yeah. So the people there, I mean, how have they been receptive to the Christ in the City missionaries? You guys, you're both first year missionaries. So when you showed up, how's the reception to new faces and new people?
That's a really good question. One of my first experiences on the street. So my first time meeting Michael, he already knew Mary, Joe, and Lydia. I didn't know him. I had no idea what was his name. The day before, I was talking to my formator Patrick, and I was asking him, hey, like, what should I do? Like, it's been very hard for me to see Jesus, to pray. It was one of our first weeks here. I think it was the second time walking the streets. And we were finishing our street walk. We were going to mass. We were a little bit late, and we were in Benedict Fountain Park. That's where one of our parks.
Yeah.
This beautiful park with a beautiful fountain, and the mountains are there too.
Yeah. Mountains in the background, fountain in the foreground.
Yes, exactly.
Also, Michael, we're saying bye, and Michael, he grabs my arm. He's like, "No, you're not leaving." And I was like, "What?"
I am.
And then he repeated that. You're not leaving till I give you all a hug. And he hugged us all, and he called us by our names.
Whoa.
This dude that I didn't know at all. And I realized, oh, wow, that was Jesus. So yeah, in general, our friends on parks are very loving.
Yeah.
They're very receptive, and they care a lot about us.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah, and it's unique because you would think, right, the life of a missionary is us caring for them, right? But if it's only a one-way caring, that's not a friendship, right? That's like like the definition of a handout, right? No, it's a relationship. Like you guys, I'm sure you're downplaying that you guys help Michael too, right? We're sure you guys love Michael and show him care, but you see that it's reciprocated.
Yeah.
Right. And that is relationship, but it's also amazing. One of the things, Sebastian, you said that is like real is he knew the missionaries, right? He knew Christ in the city. And what is Christ in the city? It's a group of people like living the Lord's mission, right? So he knew the missionaries and had built that trust with those alumni now.
Yeah.
Which allowed you to walk in there and have a relationship right away, right?
Yeah.
It begins. And I think that's that street credibility we talk about. One of the better stories I've heard of the street credibility,
Totally.
like just breaking down barriers. So what a gift. Lydia, how would you describe the route, like your first experiences on the route?
My first experiences was over the summer, over my second summer.
Okay.
I walked parks. And the summertime on the streets is just a lot more rowdy and a lot more unpredictable.
So there's a lot of travelers that come into Denver during the summers.
There's definitely more people in the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like nicer weather is going to allow people to be outside.
Totally.
Yeah, so there's like more people out.
Yeah.
Things get a little bit more rowdy. But I remember what I was so struck by, I think, like my first impression of parks was like, oh my gosh, it's all men. Like,
whoa.
There are very, very few women that I ever encounter. And I think like a majority of people on the streets are men, definitely. But especially on our route, it's almost all men.
Wow.
What's that like for you?
Yeah, I think it's been a really good growing experience for me. And I think, I've learned a lot about like how to minister to men. It's been really beautiful to kind of like uncover this desire that I have to be a daughter and like to be a daughter on the streets and to see like, to see like various friends kind of step into that role of father in like very small ways. But it's been like very beautiful to give men who perhaps like already have like broken relationships with their family to give them an opportunity to be a father to me and for me to be a daughter to them. Has been like very beautiful.
I remember, so for those listening, every now and then I'll go out with the parks team and I try to stay consistent with going on this route because they go to the park where we serve lunch in the park and I'm pretty involved with that every single week. But I remember specifically experiencing that too, Lydia, with Gary on the streets. And he found out that I have a lot of brothers. And he was like, oh, I could see that right away. He's like, I've always thought you were like my annoying little sister.
Oh my God.
And I was like, am I offended or am I just like so, edified by that, that you see me so close as like, your annoying little sister, like, oh, like we can joke around with each other and it's safe,
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I felt so like, just very honored to be the annoying little sister.
That's funny.
Oh yeah. From time to time, Gary will text us, like you saying, oh guys, I saw this. I mean, you might like this. He's sending us music videos and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, Lydia, and it's true too. It's like, so many times with our friends on the street, these men or these women who their identity in so many ways is as a father or a mother, right? I'm always amazed at how much people rise to the occasion and the level that you allow them to.
Yeah.
Right? Like with our boundaries on the streets, I've heard women say some really challenging things to men to, maybe behave better towards women. Have you found that too? Of like you give them this opportunity to do so and they want to meet that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a growing experience for me to learn how to set boundaries and where my boundaries are. I think it has been very good to be on a team because my teammates have helped me realize I actually don't respect myself as much as they respect me, as much as my teammates see my own dignity. And so I'm like, oh, like it's fine, like he said that, but it's okay, like I'll just like I care
Brush
more
it
about the
off.
friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I don't want to
Sure.
like lose the friendship. And I remember we had a friend who was crossing boundaries, and yeah, my teammates were like, no, like we need to talk to him. And it was, yeah, a conversation that the guys actually had with him of just making clear with him who the women on our team are to him. And that I think brought a lot of freedom into the friendship.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, just like I'm very grateful to have brothers that protect me in that way and that like remind me of my dignity.
Yeah. I'm sure that feels so safe too. Like
Yeah.
to have, I mean, that's exactly why we have men and women walk together.
Yes.
You know, so that women can kind of bring this disalarming presence, but men can bring this seriousness in a sense, a protective heart too. And like, just for them to vouch for you and you know, and stick up for you and call that out as well. And call that person higher. I want to hear a little bit more about your Spanish speaking friends.
Yeah.
So you two speak Spanish. Obviously, Sebastian is from Peru.
Sebastian, you speak Spanish. That's so
¿Tú
good.
hablas español?
Yes, that's so
Isn't
good.
that surprising?
Yes, it's shocking.
I've been
People are
working very hard on
surprised.
it.
Yes.
People are surprised?
No, literally, one of our
They
friends
are,
the other
yeah,
day was
for
like
sure
so surprised that he like spoke Spanish. He's
Why?
like, talk to me, like speak to me in Spanish.
Yeah,
I'm
and it's
like,
funny because last week we had the same conversation, but he was still speaking English. And today he didn't believe me. He was like, "No, you're not."
Again?
Again.
Wow. You're just an unsuspecting man. So Sebastian apparently likes to ask people, where do you think I'm from? And what did they say today, Sebastian?
They said that I was from England.
Also, I love that that's like one of your like fun icebreaker games, by the way. I think that's hysterical.
Well, so you see, Blake. No, I cannot
can't do
imitate.
the-
I
you
cannot
can't
do
do
it
the
under
English
pressure. I
accent.
cannot do English accent under
Oh,
pressure.
so you were
give
doing
him Pride
it.
and Prejudice to read, and then he'll be able to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, if I'm reading Pride and Prejudice, it'll work.
It comes out. It comes out. Okay.
All right. Okay. So back to the question.
Yes.
So
the Spanish-speaking
3
route.
out of 5 of you speak Spanish, right?
Well, yeah,
but now you all kind of like, I feel like you've all
Mary can
taken,
understand a lot.
Mary can understand.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like you guys have really taken on that identity. And Maye, your formator, your team formator, she's also from Peru. So you guys
Yeah,
feel like
so-
you really have that kind of Spanish influence on your team. What's that like when like you can go up to some friends on the street that can only speak Spanish, or they speak very little English, and you're able to like receive them in that way, like, hey, I can connect with you because I can talk with you. Have you had any people that have been really surprised? Well, Sebastian, it sounds like you have.
Yes,
But like, what has
some
that
have.
been like, and how has that kind of taken down those barriers?
It's such a privilege to be able to go and grow in friendship with people that probably won't have the chance to know Christ in the city if it was not for the fact that we have Spanish speaking missionaries.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, just to see my team being part of something that's very, I don't know, like very part of me, like my language.
Totally.
It's such a beautiful thing. I really love to go see our Spanish speaking friends. And I love when my team want to be there with them too. Sometimes they sound and feel more Latinos than I am, which is awesome. It's also a little bit hard to translate sometimes when we have friends that speak English and friends that speak Spanish in the same area. But we learned a lot. I feel very confident now.
If you guys think that Sebas is sassy in English, you should hear him in Spanish.
Oh my gosh, are you sassier?
I don't know where they're getting that. I don't know where they're getting
One of
that.
It's all over your
one of
face,
our
man.
former employees here, she went back to Latin America, but she used to say my personality doesn't translate to English. So I'm afraid Sebastian's personality is scarier in Spanish.
Scarier.
No, not scarier.
Sebastian has a reputation in this missionary community for being very sassy and sarcastic.
I don't know where they're getting that.
Yes, his quote book quotes are a little crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's all part of the fun.
How about for you, Lydia? I mean, was that something you expected to be such a part of your missionary year? I mean, like Sebastian said, it's just, it's not what we would expect, right? When we sign up to be missionaries.
Yeah, it definitely was not something that I thought about going into Christ in the City, but I learned Spanish in high school, and I had a great love for Spanish, and I kind of just really wanted to be fluent. I kind of lost like the desire for it, but this summer, right before I came to Christ in the City this year, I worked in a restaurant with almost all Spanish speakers.
Nice.
And so I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I got to like get back into this because I want to like talk to my coworkers. Otherwise it's like a lonely life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was like a very difficult summer and a very like isolating summer in many ways, just because, yeah, I was like the outsider, but I think it was really a preparation for this year and just like for how much Spanish we have been speaking on the streets. And I think it's been really beautiful to see like the progression of our friendships with our Spanish speaking friends, because I think like from what I've heard last year, it was very much like, okay, like the team like knew these people and would like say hi to them, but never really like got into like maybe the deeper things of life and like learned their stories as much. And so I think it's been a great gift this year to be able to like ask them more questions and like get to know their stories more and see them very hesitantly open up little by little. It's definitely like a slow process, but it's been such a privilege, to be able to witness that and make a space for them in which they can be received, because I think the life of living in a country where you don't know the native language can be very isolating.
Totally.
So it's a big gift to offer them a space to actually express themselves. And even if I only understand like 50% of what they tell me, they still are like patient with me.
That is not true.
They're still very patient with us. And
Lydia, fun fact, Lydia knows a lot of very sophisticated words in Spanish that I do not know. When she's talking to our friends, she's just, she sounds so knowledgeable and forward. But something I want to say is like, when I see you on the streets with our friends, now that you're telling the story about how isolating it was for you, I can see that, you really know how hard it is to learn a language in a very short time.
Yeah.
And you really know how to empathize with our friends in that aspect. Not only our friends that speak Spanish and don't know how to speak English, but our friends that speak English and are part of the conversation in Spanish. And you do a very good job there. Like, you really know how to love them.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. Like, from that isolating experience, it allowed to like spark something in you that you're like, I don't want others to feel the same.
Yeah.
You know, I want to include. And I mean, how scary it must be not only just to be homeless and to be isolated in that sense, but like to add in a whole language barrier. That has to be really, that can be really scary.
Especially a reality on the streets of Denver right now is all the migrants that you guys are mentioning waiting for work and, being bussed up from the border. We had some of our Christ in the City missionaries here in Denver actually go and help translate and help some of the migrants, because many of them speak zero English.
Right.
And that is just so tough on them to come here and get resources and navigate this reality. Did either of you go and help with that? Explain a little bit about what you were doing and how that experience was.
Yeah, we went to the Samaritan House, which is a shelter for families, and they serve meals there as well. And so I think they were receiving a lot of migrants, directing them to different resources, just because there was such an overflow of, just like not enough space for all the migrants that were coming. So we went and would kind of just like help whenever a migrant family would come in to just like help translate and get them like connected to resources that they needed to get connected to.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. How was that experience for those families you were talking to? Was there fear, like just happy to be here in a place where they can go and get shelter, or how was that experience?
Yeah, I think most of the migrants that I've talked to from Venezuela, it's like so interesting to like hear them tell about their journey here.
Yeah.
And it's just like months of taking buses and like walking on foot through a jungle and like crossing different countries. And they come here and they are met with almost nothing.
Yeah.
And somehow like this is still better than their life in Venezuela, which is just mind-boggling to me. That they don't really know what they're getting into, but they know what they're getting out of, and they know that they want to leave. And it's it's just very overwhelming to see like how little that we can do for them, and just the sheer amount of people that are coming.
Yeah.
It's like, what can we do for them?
I like the way you word that though, because that is like, imagine you're in a place where you have no clue what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
But you can almost guarantee it's better than what you have right now.
Yeah.
That's a dark place.
Yeah.
Right? That is a dark place. And then you see the risks they're willing to take, the amount of families. Oh my goodness. The amount of, toddlers, under 10-year-olds we're seeing is, that has to be a strong hope. Just a strong hope, but also a rough spot to be leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd love to hear stories from the streets, right? Stories of our friends or your experiences on the streets. So, Sebastian and Lydia, any memories or things that have happened this year that pop into mind that you'd like to share?
Well, we had a lot of beautiful moments with our friends. We made a lot of great friendships. We were just talking about our Mexican friends. And I think one of the best stories was we were just hanging out in the parking lot where they usually hang out. And we spent the whole day there just sharing sweets, talking, dancing. And at one point, Gabriel and Joe had this crazy idea of trying to catching a pigeon.
Wow.
They succeeded twice.
No.
But just
Do they have diseases now?
I guarantee you that. Yeah. It was crazy. But just to see our friends involved into such a simple activity like that, it opened a lot of beautiful conversations for the future. Then we had beautiful conversations with our friend Julio after that.
From catching a pigeon.
Wow. Oscar opened up a lot. I think that was such a simple but beautiful moment that kind of like helped us all grow a lot in friendship.
Yeah.
And moments like that, we've had many during our year of service.
Why do you think that was like impactful for your friend? From something like catching a pigeon opened up someone to like going deeper?
I think, it was this childlikeness and this like joy that is so much a part of our lives at Christ in the City, but is not very present on the streets. And these men, stay at shelters and kind of like come to this corner every day and wait for work. And they do the same thing like day after day, and it's very monotonous and it's very discouraging when there like isn't work. And this is their day in and day out. This is their life. And so to have these kids come and kind of just like break up the monotony of life with this really silly idea of catching pigeons.
Yeah.
And actually catching the pigeons and involving them in it. Joe said it was like a pause on homelessness.
Whoa.
And kind of like their normal life was paused and they could actually experience something more joyful and more than just like the isolation and loneliness that maybe they're used to experiencing.
Yeah. It like brought them real life.
Yeah. They forgot their problems for a moment. You all probably did, right? Every single one of you probably did.
Yeah.
We all have problems. And it's like in those moments, you just get like wrapped up in the joy, the not being afraid to make a fool of yourself. Or I'm thinking about that. That was probably an absolute scene, by the way. Like if you were driving by that, what in the you would have thought
glad I wasn't
we have videos. We can watch them later.
You would have thought the pigeon stole someone's like ring or watch or something is probably what everyone else was. They're like, these crazy people won't just go catch a pigeon. But it's just that moment where you're like, they saw you all be willing to drop your guard, make a fool of yourself. And I'm sure that was part of it, right? It's like, oh, okay. They can let me see this vulnerability and we can share that as well.
I mean, that's the reality of it is a lot of our friends on the street, they're constantly reminded of where they're at. And that's why a lot of people turn to other things to kind of numb that away. But when you're turning to something like joy, it reminds you who you are. It reminds you like who you were created to be all along. When you guys are able to bring them that childlikeness, that joy, even if it's silly, even if you're the silly younger sister to them, that reminds them who they are, that they can enjoy life, that they are meant to live.
Yeah.
And not that they're just meant to be stuck where they're at or just meant to suffer.
Yeah, it's meaningful for everyone. It's meaningful for them. It's meaningful for us. Even for the birds. We now call them by their name.
To this day, like one of our friends, like today we were on the streets and he named the pigeon that we caught Catalina. And today we were on the streets and he was like, Catalina, like pointing at the pigeon, like they remember.
One of the birds is called Lydia.
Yeah, one of the pigeons is called Lydia.
Lydia! Oh my gosh. Wow.
Not the
I'm
Catalina.
just trying to wrap my mind around.
Sebas, did you name her Catalina?
I did not.
No, our friend did.
Our friend did.
Did you name the pigeon Lydia?
I might have.
Oh gosh, what do they call pigeons? Rats of the sky or something? It's like, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so Sebastian
well,
calling
I
you-
touched it and I'm okay. So
No. I'm sorry, Lydia's parents, if you're listening to this. We did not authorize that activity. That was
free act of their will.
Yes,
Yes,
that is.
yes.
You can't be prepared for everything, folks. You can't be prepared for everything.
Anyway, we got great footage.
There you go.
We have this
great
beautiful
footage.
of Mary.
Releasing Catalina.
Yeah, with the sunrise.
The lens
No,
flare.
stop.
It's pretty dramatic.
Not the drama.
Drama.
You put music behind that, didn't you, Sebas?
I did.
Yikes. Oh, good.
yeah.
You too.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah,
And
this
thanks for
is
sharing more
so
about
good.
parks.
So good. What a unique thing, right? How just simple language, just breaking through that barrier and what that does to open people up, as well as just provide them that level of comfort, that level of being known, and then that consistency, that street credibility that only comes through consistency and
Friendship.
not being afraid to be a fool. You know, a fool for the Lord. Except I do not know how catching pigeons was for the Lord. So I think that may be a little too
You'll
far.
be
But
surprised.
catching Catalina, little Lydia in the sky there. Oh, you guys.
Thank you to all of our listeners
Yeah.
who tuned in today. We hope that you can be inspired to share some of that childlike joy
Yeah, totally.
with any stranger that you meet.
And if you're on a language journey, learning a new language, keep going. You know, it's worth it.
I like that. That's a
It's
good
worth
one.
it. It's, not an easy journey, as Lydia shared, right?
Yeah.
It's not an easy one, but worth it.
A new way to love.
Exactly.
Oh, wow, that's challenging. Maybe I should learn a second language too. Probably not. Probably not. All right.
I think we should close this podcast by saying the slogan
For the
of
street
parks, of Park Street Route.
All right, we're going to end with the park's slogan, Street Route.
1, 2, 3.
Arriba Parques!
Oh, love it. God bless you all. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Homeless But Human today. In order to keep producing this content for you all, we invite you to consider joining our known and loved monthly giving community. This is one of the most impactful ways that you can join us on mission. Your monthly gift sends missionaries out to the streets day after day and helps us to continue recording and sharing our podcast. It's our vision that every city not only has soup kitchens and shelters, but communities who are committed to helping the homeless know that they have a home in us. And what is home but a small taste of Christ's infinite love? Visit christinthecity.org and make a monthly gift today to join our known and loved community. And if you enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor and go hit subscribe and leave a review. To get more involved with the mission, visit christinthecity.org.